transition to your greatness. You want a program that would help you, inspire you, motivate you. Why bother to turn to other channels? Just stay here on Personality Profile and you get all the inspiration you need.
Yeah, you can be the greatest, you can be the best, you can be the King Kong banging on your chest.
You can beat the world, you can beat the war, you can talk to God, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock, you can move a mountain.
Absolutely, you could be sitting in the Hall of Fame and the world will know your name. It's the script and Will I Am with that amazing song that sets off our Thursday afternoon with a very good cause. Yep, this is Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. I'm Lexis Bill. I look forward to these evenings where we can sit down, relax, and have a good conversation with people who are doing amazing things in Ghana. And this evening, I have one such great personality in the studio that we'll be talking to. Yeah, but before I introduce you to this wonderful person, I'd want you to check out our live video on our Facebook page. The conversation is live on Facebook, so you can actually go check it out and share the link with your friends and family. You can call a friend to call a friend to tell a friend to tune in to Joy 99.7 FM or log on to myjoyonline.com so they can join in as well. Yeah, we've taken our seat now. So I'll tell you, I'm spending time with a very hard-working woman. Yep. A very industrious one, who has actually worked hard to build a very solid brand in the dental industry in Ghana. She's a woman I can easily refer to as a global citizen. And you get to understand why. Because, look, she's lived all over the world and settled back home in Ghana. I don't know whether it's because of the Akule or the, Ademe. But she's back home and she's edged the path in dentistry and orthodontics, an enviable one here in Ghana. From being an honorary clinical lecturer on the postgraduate orthodontic program at both Birmingham and Manchester dental schools to being awarded UK's Aesthetic Dentistry Orthodontic Smile Award in 2009, she has actually been through the mill. Lectured in places as near as Nigeria and as far as Oman in the Middle East, India, France, Morocco. She has over 12 publications in peer-reviewed journals. She returned permanently to Ghana somewhere in 2013 to run her own practice, Platinum Orthodontic and Dental Services. In fact, she was listed as one of Ghana's most outstanding women entrepreneurs in November of 2017. And in 2023 as well, she was selected as one of the 50 most influential women impacting society by the Business Executive Network. You've probably heard her a few times on Notorious Ultimate Health here on Joy FM, talking about how you and I can have a long-lasting smile. Well, tonight I spent time with consultant, orthodontist, and CEO of Platinum Dental, Dr. Norvishie Arkutu. Welcome, Doc.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm really, really good.
For someone who makes people smile, you have a beautiful smile too.
Thank you. I'm selling my profession.
Yeah, absolutely. You do that with all 32.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the picture at the back. I'm like, you certainly need to be on a billboard for a dental, something, not just platinum, but like what, Pepsodent?
Yeah,
A close-up or something.
You have to work that smile.
Yes, but hey, thank you so much for all that you do for the many people. I'm sure it makes you smile as well when you see your clients smile wide, eh?
Yeah, it's very, very transformative.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you work with teenagers.
Oh, okay.
And they start off shy and recalcitrant, and then you just watch them bloom.
Yeah.
And it really has a good feeling about it, because you can tell that it's going to shape their actual future in the long term, because they are confident.
Yeah.
They're actually buoyant, and they are now using all the muscles in their face to communicate. So yeah, very, very
It's
special.
interesting you mentioned teenagers. Why not the older people?
So, I often laugh that dentistry is the only thing that people send their children first. So you always find the child and the teenager in your chair first.
Yeah.
And it's only when they survive that the parents then come. Really, really odd.
Are you serious? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Always.
But why is that so? Why the parents are scared?
I think that dentistry has changed so much. So you and I's experience of dentistry is very, very different to what the younger ones are actually experiencing.
Right.
But also in terms of investments, we all tend to invest in our children first.
Right.
And then when they see that it wasn't that bad and they get comfortable in the environment, then they also take the leap.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hitherto, people would go to see the dentist when there's a problem. Probably they have some caca, or they've got some toothache or something, or they're getting some bad gum pain or something of the sort. But nowadays, people are doing all sorts of, aesthetics with the dentists.
Yeah, so I think that I've been back for 10 years, and Ghana has had a remarkable change in the perception of dentistry. And I'm so hopeful that the rate of change is going to continue. But I think that the really important thing is that whether it's dentistry, whether it's health, we really need to get into the mindset of prevention is better than cure.
Right.
So keeping up the checkups, etc., allows us to pick up things. But yes, Africa is interesting because sometimes we just leapfrog things. And that's happened with aesthetic dentistry.
Okay.
Where now a lot of clients are actually seeking dental work just for aesthetic reasons,
right.
Whether it's whitening. I say that whitening is the most requested procedure in dentistry in Ghana.
Okay.
To braces, to veneers, etc. And so we are becoming so aware of what's actually possible and how that can influence our lives, our careers, and our overall well-being.
Right. I'm sure many of your clients are listening right now. Many of the people you've put smiles on their faces, and they are smiling like, oh, that's my doc. Well, today they get to know about your journey throughout the world. You're a Ghanaian, but you're probably just like 20%. There's some other 20% that I learned is in Zimbabwe. There's some in the UK. There's some in France, wherever. Oh my goodness. You have a lot. Okay, so where are you from? Tell us a bit about where you're from, where you were born. Show
I
us.
am 100% Ghanaian.
Okay.
Born in Kolebu
Okay.
to parents who were both doctors at Kolebu.
Oh, wow.
So I started off living in the doctor's, accommodation in
Yeah.
Kolebu, went to the little nursery that every doctor's child went to, and then started off at Rich Church.
Ah.
So I definitely did class 1 and class 2 in Rich Church. And then that's when I left Ghana.
That's when you
and-
decided to start your sojourn, huh?
Yes. And I would say traveled around Africa a lot. I think it's really, really interesting because if you said, so who are you? I am such a Pan-Africanist. I believe that Africa is a sleeping giant. And we are still just wiggling our big toe. And when we decide, and when that giant decides to sit up and act, then the rest of the world will actually waken up and realize the potential that is Africa.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I spent some time in Kenya, Zimbabwe. I did a lot of my schooling in Zimbabwe.
In Zimbabwe?
Yes.
So that's the first place you went to after Ghana?
So after Ghana, I actually went to Kenya
Kenya, okay.
for a very, very brief period of time, then to England,
Okay.
north of England, and then came back to Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, I spent a good 5 to 6 years.
What was taking you around? I mean, why were you moving around with your parents? right?
Yes. So my dad at some stage transitioned from being an associate professor in obstetrics and gynecology to working with WHO and then United Nations Development Program, UNDP.
Yeah.
So we're now living the diplomat lifestyle where
Okay.
every 2 to 3 years you're probably stationed,
Yeah,
in
somewhere else.
yes, in another country. But I think that there was a very, very solid grounding in that every other Christmas you came back to Ghana. So
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
so we were those people who come and cause traffic in Ghana around Christmas time. So yes, so a lot of experiences, a lot of different countries. And what I would say to anybody who has the ability to is that traveling is so important because it widens your perspective. It lets you at a very, very early stage decide who you are and what you stand for, and very, very early on, I got the mindset of the fact that whatever situation I found myself in, you had to, number one, look for opportunities. Then number two, you had to take the best out of every situation you find in and leave the rest.
Okay.
So take the best and leave the rest.
Yeah.
You don't have to drag negativity from one thing to another.
That's a very important lesson there. Yeah. So you spent more years in Zimbabwe than any other African country you were stationed in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that the education system in that era, in the 80s, Zimbabwe had just gone through independence, and it had a very, very good, very, very good education system. There we had all the white, Rhodesians, at that stage who were still within the country.
Okay.
So a decision was made that we should stay and complete our education there, whilst mum and dad moved on to, other stations.
I chanced on a picture of you in one of your year groups in Zimbabwe. And it didn't look like Zimbabwe. It actually looked like somewhere in the in Europe or whatever it is, because you were in a class with probably 80-90% of the students being white people.
Yes, so really, really interesting. Yes, I think in a whole school year, there were probably about 100, and there would be less than 6 black people.
Wow.
Yes.
And this is in Zimbabwe.
And this is in Zimbabwe.
In Africa.
In Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was odd in that way. And even a lot of the black people there at that stage did not come from Zimbabwe. So I was
Like
in the
you.
same, yes, and I was in the same year as President Mbeki of South Africa's child,
Okay.
etc. So yes, Very,
But did
very
you understand
strange.
the race dynamics at the time?
Do you know what? I didn't. But again, I didn't because I distinctly remember what at that stage I felt was not a right, incident happening. And I went home and I was like, I think that somebody is being racist. And I remember my mom looking at me and saying to me, but how do you know that it's just you that they don't like? Why, So interestingly, and because there were so few black people, you didn't think that it was racism. You assumed that it was a personal attribute.
Right.
But that incident really helped me in life because what it taught me is that in any situation, you need to first examine whether it's an internal source or whether the problem is you before you look for external and wider problems and things to actually blame it on. So no, I actually did not know any different, and it was great.
Why did it have so many white people and only few black students?
So I think that it was. You have to remember that Zimbabwe had just gone through, independence. So Zimbabwe, would not have had independence for about 3 to 4 years. So I'm sure affordability was quite a big thing, and the general mixing at that stage just did not occur. So what was really interesting is that the year after me and 2 years after me, there was definite affirmative action.
Okay.
So that by the second year after us, it was like 30%.
Okay.
Zimbabweans who were now coming into
Yeah.
that school system.
Did that whole setup introduce you to more like the real world of racism, where maybe later in life it will help you or probably get you to understand the whole dynamics a lot better?
Racism, bizarrely for me, especially because I spent so long in the UK as well, it's not something that I experience. So it may have been happening around me, but I did not experience it as, actual racism.
Right.
And it had no effect on me.
Okay.
So in that way, I grew up in a world that really, oddly enough, did not have color. So whether I was staying with a totally Jewish family and there were 8 of them and me, I didn't experience any difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, it had no bearing on me at all.
Okay, let's talk about the fact that your parents were both medical professionals.
Okay.
As a young person, what career path did you want to chart?
My parents did not push medicine. If anything, they pushed us slightly away. What I do definitely remember is that my dad was very, very advanced in terms of how he thought. And the one thing he would go on and on and on about was environmental health.
Okay.
He really, and environmental science, he really felt that, greenhouse effect and what was going to happen, and dealing with that thing was going to be crucial in the future. So I definitely remember being, all of us, him trying to steer us towards that. But the other thing that was almost like a must was French.
Oh.
My parents were obsessed with us being able to, speak French and giving us that actual opportunity.
Oh, tu parles français?
Un petit peu.
Ouais.
C'est pas génial.
Oh, ouais. Okay. At least a little to turn around.
Yes, a little. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so at what point did you leave Zimbabwe and where next?
So I basically completed my equivalent, my O levels in Zimbabwe. And then I transferred to London to do my A levels.
Okay.
Yeah. And that transition was also extremely interesting because
Tell me about it.
Up until then, I had been in pretty much girls' schools.
Okay.
Then I went to Mill Hill in North London, which was a boys' school.
A boys' school?
That was now taking girls in the sixth form.
Oh, no. Don't tell me you're going to be in the minority again.
So there were literally about 8 girls and like 800 boys
Oh, wow.
in this high school.
How was that experience, though? I mean, how did you mix with the boys?
We
Well,
thought
did you
that
even mix with them?
we thought that the boys would give us so much attention. They hated us. They hated.
Well, you
all
guys
of
were
us.
thinking about your space now.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
dear.
and these were boys, some of whom had been together since like age 4.
Yeah.
And they had figured out all their rankings.
Yeah.
And then we were the outsiders who were coming in and trying to disturb things, etc. So no. We were not popular.
I see.
So, yeah.
But did that dynamic as well teach you anything?
It definitely did, because again, there was a real international feel, about it. It was a school that focused a lot on sports. So because it got dark early, you would actually finish school around 1 and then do sports until 4 and then go back to classes. So it was all that way. But mainly it was one of these schools that really focused on getting you into Oxford, Cambridge,
Okay.
Ivy League,
Yeah.
etc. And actually, I'm still great friends with quite a few people from there.
So this moving around thing is very much unlike what a lot of us experienced, because we'd normally have our schooling from primary or basic level through to secondary school in one geographical location. You're having a mix of so many different places. Would you say that helped or hurt?
Do you know what? The one thing I'm very, very jealous of is the alumni network in Ghana.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would have been a gay girl. I would have been a mobile person. So I find the whole importance of the alumni thing in Ghana very, very, very deep and interesting. I loved it. I loved it. I think that as you got into your later teen years, and you were now forming, relationships and friendships, that you were very, very aware of the fact that you may move.
Yeah.
And you may move and you may move. But for me, hugely positive. Hugely positive. And even up to now, I just get the itch to travel and experience new places.
Wow.
But when I go to anywhere new, I don't even like doing the touristy things. I want to move into the home of somebody who's living there.
Okay.
To get the real cultural experience
Yeah.
of that actual place.
Oh, that's nice. Well, if you're just joining us, this is Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM today. I'm having a conversation with the CEO of Platinum Dental, Dr. Norvishie Arkutu, right? Norvishie, you were telling me it means what? Unity?
Unity, yes. So unity is strength.
Unity is strength.
Yes.
And there's Novici, so it should be the same name, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
sort of.
I think that it derives from the Ewe name Norvishie.
Novici.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there you go. You can WhatsApp us on 055 997. Okay, so now you've done most part of your schooling. There's a decision to choose a career. Dentistry. At what point did that come in, and what made you decide to go into dentistry?
Yeah, so hard decision. I had the most bizarre application because I was applying for English and drama at the same time as dentistry, etc. I have to say, in the end, it came down to wanting a profession. And it came down to being perhaps a bit astute about, and having moved around, I wanted a profession that guaranteed a certain level of income and assurity wherever you were in the world.
Okay.
So at that stage, I didn't know where I would be, but I definitely wanted the assurance that wherever you were in the world, you'd be guaranteed, So I think that there was that. The second thing is that dentistry was really, really pushed as a great occupation for females.
Really?
Yeah, because the whole mindset is that you end up owning and running your own practice, and you can decide whether to close at 3:30 and go and pick up kids and do home. And so, and if you were, pregnant, you could still work right up to 8.5 months, etc. So even now, it's really pushed as a very desirable occupation for women, and also, to be honest, with the little I knew then, I felt that it was something that looked quite monotonous. And that if I could spend a lot of time and perfect it, I would be extremely good at it, but it would allow me to focus on other areas of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, you didn't know AI was coming, huh?
Man, the last 3 years has been so interested in dentistry with AI.
Yeah, you didn't know AI was just around the corner
Crazy.
to go on, shake everything up, huh?
Yeah.
How has it affected, the whole business of? Well, we'll actually get there. It's okay. We'll get there. I would want us to have that conversation because we'll look at the future of your profession as well and what it means with all the innovations that we're seeing and all of that. But now you decided that this is a profession that would probably guarantee you a certain level of income and a certain lifestyle. I didn't even know about this, gender dynamics of dentistry, like you're explaining it, but it's a very interesting one. So what, parents agreed that, this is a way to go, or what?
Yes, I think my parents were very open and affable, and, they would support most things. I think at some stage there was a talk about university could only be 4 years. And dentistry is actually 5 years. So I remember having to go and negotiate that 5th year. But yes, so it was go, do it. But always with my parents, 2 things. Do it to the best of your ability.
Okay.
So this need for excellence, do it to the best of your ability. And then the second one, which sounds counterintuitive, is have fun.
Okay.
So those 2 were always the mantras where, even if you were being dropped off at the airport, work really, really hard. Also remember to have fun. So so I went and did my negotiations, and then I started
the whole have fun bit. How did you translate that into real life?
I think have fun to me translated into experience different things. So don't get so caught up that you become unidimensional. So still go and experience different things, Don't spend all the time studying. Go and watch plays, go and experience music.
Yeah.
Go and learn dancing, so make sure that in a way you are experiencing life and living.
Yeah. And now this is what, probably more than 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
In Ghana, it will be safe to say that probably dentistry wasn't as broad and as common as it is now. So you'd say that it was a very hot cake. Where you were, was it easy to just get into the world of work? And how popular was dentistry?
So, yes. I think that once you actually graduated, doctors and dentists could stay in the UK for 4 years, etc. And so there was a very, very clear pathway. So you were literally on a tram line and you had to opt out. Okay. So, from graduating, if you were an overseas international student, your only option was to go into hospital. The minute you went into hospital, everybody assumed that you wanted to specialize. So there was a very, very clear, pathway, and you just found yourself going down that, actual pathway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you stayed there for how long?
Oh my gosh, what, on the actual pathway?
Yeah.
So I graduated in 1998 and I completed specialist training in 2007.
Wow.
It's long.
And you specialized in what, orthodontics?
I specialized in orthodontics to a consultant level.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that?
So, at some stage, I actually wanted to do a different specialty called maxillofacial surgery. But to do maxillofacial, you had to go back and do dentistry. You had to go back and do medicine. So that's a very long pathway. And again, the gender dynamics came into it. And what I meant by that is that at the time I was training, there were only about 11 female consultants, maxillofacial, in the whole country in the UK. And I ended up having to work for, one of them. And whilst I've talked about my past and not experiencing racism, etc., it was the first time that I did experience a separation in how the genders were treated. And what I mean by that is that maxillofacial deal with a lot of road traffic accidents where we need to restore people's skeleton and faces. They deal with a lot of cancer, etc. So you were automatically part of the trauma team. And you would have a bleep and the bleep would go off and it would say, trauma. And what was so interesting is that when you went in with a male colleague, the information was just shared. It was like, yeah, we have a road traffic accident, approximately going at 80 miles per hour. When you went in with a female, she had to ask for every single detail. So the men discussed it as though they were at the pub, to use a very British thing, and were just conversing. Whereas with her, she had to get every information out. Now, as a group, we ended up telling her this. And I'm not sure it was the right thing to do, because until we mentioned it, she didn't feel it.
Okay.
Whereas now we had brought it out, and so there were just little things like that. And as I said, you had to go back and do medicine. So that was an additional 4 years. So when I looked at everything, I decided, no, let me do orthodontics. It's nice, it's clean, it's about building relationships. And this is something that I think I can do.
And you did that in the UK most part, right?
Yes. So all of my training, I did 3 years to become a specialist. And then at that stage, I decided that I wanted to focus on cleft lip and palate care and people who had facial, deformities and syndromes, etc. So I did a further 2 years at a very, very high level and became a consultant in 2007.
So you had life figured out. Everything was fine in the UK.
Yeah.
Right? You
Amazing.
were okay.
Yeah.
Then you said, okay, let me go back to Ghana.
I had an early midlife crisis.
Which man was responsible for that?
No.
Did the man bring the whole crisis?
No, not
Okay.
at all.
Thank
And
God.
No, not at all. And that year was just so odd because I was doing a lot of lecturing. So I was lecturing. I had become a consultant. I had the perfect setup in terms of accommodation, etc. And I woke up one day and there was this feeling that this is it.
Just like that.
This is it. And that for the next 10 years, unless my next aim was to become the president of the British Orthodontic Society, I had reached really where I was going to reach. And I was like, oh, and I'm only 32, and what next? So I distinctly remember waking up, walking from my bedroom to the kitchen, and literally going, oh, and then deciding, no, there has to be something else. And that something else at that stage was, actually, I spent a lot of time in boarding school. We're quite a close family, but let me go and spend time with my parents.
Okay.
And let me go and spend time with them and enjoy them before they become old and you go into a carer, mindset. Let me just go and live with them.
Wow.
And that's how, the whole thing about.
And at that point, they had moved back to Ghana.
Yes. So they had moved back to Ghana. My younger sister was here, but my 2 other siblings were living elsewhere. And so it was, okay, let me come back. But it was too big a decision to make. So the way my brain dealt with it, and actually all of my friends, was to call it my African adventure. So I was going to come back for 5 years.
Okay.
And I was going to come back and I was going to live the African dream and discover myself again for 5 years. And then at the end of the 5 years, I would decide what I wanted to do.
And that was the plan.
That was the plan. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So now you're back in a system that you're not so familiar with.
Yeah, so that was the plan, but it didn't quite work that way because I found it very, very difficult to find the right job in the right setting.
Here in Ghana.
Here in Ghana, yes. So
When you say the right job, you just mean, a job that can pay you as much.
No, it wasn't so much about pay. It was about the conditions that I wanted to work in. Look, this relentless pursuit of excellence, I'm a good clinician, but what I'm very passionate and I'm very clear about is that I'm a teacher. Okay. And I had done so much teaching, etc., etc. So I really wanted something to home those two things, together. And I was just struggling to find the right mix. So again, at a dinner table after another interview that had not gone quite to plan, my dad, my parents said, why don't you just do something of your own? Because you're searching and searching and you're not finding it.
Yeah.
So why don't you just do something? And so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm shaking my head because I had no idea. Such naivety. Because then I decided, there was this thing of, let me find a place and renovate it. Next thing I knew, I was building. I wasn't even in Ghana. And, my mom was just working on this build,
Wow.
And what I thought would take 12 to 15 months ended up taking like 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So it took a lot longer, and everybody who has built in Ghana must have this experience. You have this image and you come and it's always 10 times bigger than you imagined. And I don't know what it is with architects and contractors, but whatever you do, it's always, I remember coming to the place and thinking, oh, this is a big place. But yes, a very, very interesting experience because I was now coming back. I don't really have a good solid command of any local language. Okay. I'm doing a lot better now. I don't have that many childhood friends, etc. I knew like 2, other dentists, and I was going to come and I was going to do this thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Looks like the perfect adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, real adventure, and almost good that I wasn't having other influences, because I feel like I would have compromised or not have gone and been totally and utterly true to what I actually wanted to do, because I think that people would have put fear into me, whereas I was naive enough not to have any fear.
Yeah.
So I would dream it and I'll say, okay, let's do ABCD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were the challenges in the beginning when you decided to set it up on
So
your
the first
own?
challenge, like every business person, is financing.
Okay.
Raising the money. I do have to say thank you, EcoBank. So, and again, this is where you talk about naivety and passion. I remember I had a PowerPoint presentation and I went to all the banks and I presented to the banks, and I had no idea that in this part of the world, people do not lend to startups. I had no idea. So I went and presented with gusto, and it is things like that, And
do you recall any reaction or any kind of feedback that was quite, monumental?
So I think that there were 2, and please hear me out on this. I'm not going to name the bank, but there was a particular bank I went to and I did my presentation. And there was an elderly gentleman, so he must have been, early 60s or, so. And he looked at me and he asked me, where are the men in this project?
Oh, wow.
And when he asked me that, all my independence and feminism
Just all gushed out.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
dear.
when I looked at him, I realized that no, he was really looking at me as though I was his daughter and I was going to make the most monumental mistake. So it wasn't being done with malice aforethought.
Okay.
And I remember looking at him, and everything that was going to come out, I swallowed, and I thought, oh, wow, should I be scared, you know? And he was genuinely concerned. So I definitely remember that one. And then I also remember, you know, just having to explain to people what the vision was. And them looking at me like, But I think that in the end, I hope they took a risk due to passion.
Okay.
And they realized that I was going to keep going on and on and
Yeah.
on until it actually happened.
And that was actually Ecobank that took
And
a
that
chance
was actually
with you.
Ecobank, which
Yeah.
took the chance. Yeah.
What do you think sold it for them?
I think that they believed in me. I think that especially two of the people on that, actual, group had started to see what was in dentistry and felt that it was possible. And I think they knew that I would definitely do it. It was just a matter of time. And them, lowering me, the money would shorten the actual period.
The actual period.
Yeah.
I see. Well, there are lots of messages coming through on our platform. I'll read some for you. I got a message from Philip in North Legon. He says, I can't stop listening to this amazing woman. She's indeed a fulfilled person. Dr. Norvishie Arkutu, keep doing the good work for Mother Ghana.
Thank you.
All right. And Efua from East Legon. Yes, Efua says Dr. Norvishie is a true professional. She's passionate and loves her job. Her smile and jokes are also welcoming and makes you feel at home. It rubbed on the staff as well. They're all nice. The place is so serene and neat. She makes me feel I should become a dentist. I should have become a dentist. Platinum Dental has become my clinic of choice for my regular dental visits after I completed my treatment with them. That's really cool. You can also hit us up on 055 1111 997. So it's been 10 years since you actually put it together.
Yes.
From your typical teacher, cum technical person, persona, now you had to add the role of being a manager and a leader of a team as well. How did you navigate that?
It didn't come easy or natural to me. I think every business person in Ghana has experienced HR issues. And in fact, I remember having a fraudulent check, and two, fraudulent checks had gone through, etc. And I called my mentor, and I'll talk about mentorship in a minute. And they said, "Oh, congratulations! Now you're a true business person in Ghana." It felt as though there were these rites of passage that we actually had to go through. So I think that the first thing for me and how I did it was through mentors.
Okay.
So I had and I still have a plethora of mentors. So I have clinical mentors, I have dentistry mentors, I have African business mentors, etc. And I get all their ideas and then forge, my actual way through. So the biggest thing was the change from being a clinician to being a manager, and I remember my mentor, Mr. Thompson, saying to me, "So I want you to report to me every month on chair occupancy." Now, you really have to imagine that when I was going to open the clinic, I had only ever been salaried.
Yeah.
And even as I got into the car, my mom said, "Do you even have a money box? Do you have a receipt book?" you know, and now he was telling me to report on chair, you know, occupancy, etc. And some of you may know my sister, Norvishie Arkutu, who
Right.
was the MD of Unilever
Right.
here. And I was talking to her about marketing and how to, you know, and she said, so you guys, you don't think about marketing. You just go and sit in the clinic and pray that people are going to turn up. You know? So I had to really, really realize that being a great clinician was great for my patients, but it wasn't great for my business.
Yeah.
And I had to actively go and learn about business. You know, so I took courses, etc. I even started, I didn't complete, but I did start, you know, Stanford Seed.
Oh dear.
I got myself into the, you know, business, you know, communities, and had to really, really think in a very different way.
Wow. And it paid off, isn't it?
Definitely. I'm still learning. So whilst I feel I'm a natural teacher, I don't think I'm a natural manager.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely learning.
What's the biggest lesson this journey has taught you?
Trust your instinct. You know, and actually, the more time you spend in a particular field, the more you need to trust that gut instinct. So everything from appointments, you know, in terms of you are looking for a marketer. You know, you are looking for your next dentist. And you are interviewing and you're not finding the right person. There's a reason why you're not finding the right person. So that thing about trusting your gut instinct is really, really important. But the other side, which sounds really flippant, is take the risk. You're not going to die. Take the risk. You know,
Yeah.
be willing to jump and you know, take the risk. Otherwise, you end up being stuck.
Right. Generally in life, was this advice actually, or these lessons you learned, was it dentistry specific, or this was a general advice that you would want
I
to
think
give?
that it's a general advice, you know, but one of the things that I don't understand, especially in the world that we live in, is why we don't make more use of information. You know, we have these amazingly powerful devices in our hands, and they have everything. So all of my staff will tell you that before they can come to me with anything, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, have you done any research? Have you Googled it? Have you because everything is out there.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember COVID. You know, the whole thing started in Ghana, and whether I liked it or not, I walked into my waiting room and I thought, all these schools that had shut down, because we knew how it came, all the schools that had shut down, I walked into my waiting room and a lot of them were in my reception. And I thought, so if the schools decided to shut down, why are you still open? I called my leadership team and we took the decision to close. And we were the first dental practice to close. And 4 or 5 days later, Ghana Health Service mandated all dentists to basically shut down. So I definitely, you know, remember that and having to make that, like, you know, decision.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, you know, COVID actually taught a lot of lessons. The other thing is the importance and the strength of your team. And all of a sudden, you know, we have amazing grass, but the grass needs to be watered. You know? And I had my dentists watering the grass. And when I say I had, they went and did it on their own volition. It's not that I actually asked for it.
Yeah.
You know, and now you were really working as a team.
Yeah.
Before that, we were literally independent people.
Yeah.
But now we were working as a team. We had each other's back, you know, and you know, we had all the protocols. But the reason I was mentioning COVID is that there was so much information.
Yeah.
Through social media, on all the dental platforms, And we really, really harness that. Really, really harness that.
Did it affect you, seeing as dentistry is very close to aerosols and the whole COVID spread and whatnot? I mean, I was even just thinking about it. How are you guys going to operate? 'Cause
Yeah.
we're wearing masks.
Where you can't even call them masks. They were like, I think that we did it. We really harnessed international, thing, and we got through it as a team, and it made the team extremely strong.
Okay.
And for me, that was a real turning point. That instead of having individuals, we had a collective team that were working together, towards something.
What's your biggest regret?
So I'm going to tell you a funny story about COVID, and then I'll move on. So COVID, with the borders being locked down, the other thing that I do is facial aesthetics. So
Okay.
Botox and derma fillers. And all of a sudden, we're getting phone calls. Now, Ghana is very interesting because there are a lot of men, a lot of old men
Huh?
doing Botox and derma fillers.
You're kidding.
But they tend to go to Atlanta and Geneva and da-da-da-da. Now that they were locked in the country, you'd get a call saying, "Can I have a confidential service? My face is falling apart." My face is falling.
Wow. I see.
So COVID flashed out all of these people who needed our services. Let's put it that way. It was crazy.
That's a revelation, honestly.
Yeah. Really, really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really interesting.
I see. You were telling us about your biggest regret.
My biggest regret. Ooh. I think my biggest regret will be sometimes not being bold enough. I shy away from controversy. I tend to be emotional about certain things, until one of my mentors again said to me, "If there's a ripe mango on a tree, even schoolboys walking past will throw a mango at it." So every time, people say something, then I tend to go, inward, and it takes me a while before I actually come,
Right.
outwards. Yeah.
What's your happiest memory or happiest moment? Proudest achievements, maybe.
So really, proudest achievement for me is, and when I feel like I did what I set out to do, is when I'm sitting with my parents having a glass of wine and spending that time. And I think that for me, the experiences with people far outweigh, anything else.
Right.
Anything else.
If you had to advise any young person who looks up to you, what would you tell them?
I'll say to them, it's fun, but it's hard work. And what I say to all of my staff is that wherever you find yourself, whatever you're doing, look, at some stage I was selling windows on the phone. Wherever you find yourself, whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability. Do it to the best of your ability, because that is going to grow something in you. And interestingly, you don't realize the skills that you're actually learning. So whatever you are, if you've decided that you're going to be there even for a month, 6 months, do the best that you can do. My one ism is that I struggle with people who don't want to grow. So when people I'm happy, you can be happy and still want to grow. But when people become static and they don't want to grow and they don't want to take that next step, they don't want to pursue that excellence. And that pursuit of excellence, it's very, very difficult. Then I don't know what to do with them.
And you have pursued excellence, and today we celebrate you. You've
Thank
done
you.
well.
Thank you
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed spending time with you here on Personality Profile. And I need to say kudos to you and your team at Platinum Dental as well.
Thank you.
So, guys, you need to check it out. It's a great place, and I'm sure the old men who need the Botox would will call you up after this. Dr. Norvishie Arkutu, CEO of Platinum Dental, and she's been my guest on Personality Profile. I'm grateful that you came by.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And thanks a lot to Chancellor Ernest de Graft as well, and the CEOs Network as well. Thank you. I'm Lexis Bill. Uncle Ken will take over your radio very shortly. It's 8 o'clock. Let's find out what's happening in news.